Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Left, Right, Left podcast, the best podcast in Prince William County, Virginia, where awesome people and amazing people share their journeys about life. I got a heck of a guest with me here today. He's one of my brothers, and I'll give you the short version of it. He spent over 31 years in the Marine Corps. He retired as a 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force Sergeant Major. For those of you unfamiliar, Marine Expeditionary Force is the largest MAGTF, Marine Air Ground Task Force, that can be deployed in combat, anywhere from 40 to 60,000 personnel. He currently works for the American Legion as a director in Washington, D.C., and he advocates for veterans, and I'm going to let him share with you a lot of the other details of his journey. Without further ado, please help me welcome Mario Marquez.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me, brother. It's really wonderful being here today.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming by and having some coffee, and I'm very eager to hear about your story. Let's get right into it, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so I understand you were not born in this country, and then you immigrated here, so I would like you to provide some details of that process.
Yeah, so I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco State in Mexico, so that's a really long name to explain where I'm from. But I lived there till I was around 3 years old, and then in 1974-ish, my family immigrated to California, and we started what is honestly the American dream. Hardworking parents. We lived in LA and the various cities. We eventually settled down in a little town called Hawaiian Gardens, California, which I consider my home of record. And I lived there for about 8 years until I graduated from Artesia High School in Lakewood, California. Started going to school and stuff, and I had a part-time job, and I just wasn't feeling the vibe, and so I started looking for other options of what I could do other than grow up and stay in LA.
Yeah, clearly you made a decision.
I did.
And probably a very good decision. So what gravitated you towards the Marines? Why did you make that decision?
So a couple of my buddies joined the Army, and good on them. They did great things, and they did 4 years, and that was about the extreme of their experience. But about a year and a half into their tour, a couple of my other buddies joined the Marine Corps, and I didn't know much about the Marine Corps at the time. Everybody knew about the Army and the Navy. We were just limited in our scope of knowledge where I was from. And so I heard the Marine Corps was the best, and I wanted to try the best, and it was the toughest. And so my mom wouldn't sign for me because I was 17.
Yeah.
So I waited until I was 18, and as soon as I turned 18, I signed up to put me in the delayed entry program. And about a year later, I shipped out to Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, California.
Hoorah, love that place. Legendary
That's right.
parade deck.
That's right.
Yeah, that place is just amazing. Just brings chills to my spine just thinking about it.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What was your MOS when you were a young Marine?
So when I first joined, I was a landing support specialist, the famous Red Patchers.
LSB.
LSB,
Yeah,
landing
that's
support.
right.
There's all kinds of nicknames we can go into with those guys. But I will tell you, it was a fantastic MOS. I was always deployed. I was always operationally engaged. I was either with the infantry or supporting the Navy or the Army. And so it really exposed me to a whole lot in just the first few years of joining the Marine Corps. And that made a difference in the allure of the military, and it exposed me to more culture and different countries in the world that really made me feel that I wanted to keep going, see what this is really all about at a higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Did you do any MEUs when you were a young Marine?
I didn't, but I deployed a lot. I could have done 31st MEU, but I just didn't have the opportunity for whatever reason. But I probably visited maybe 7, 8, 9 countries in the first 2 years that I was in Okinawa, Japan, which was my first duty station.
Yeah.
Which I didn't want to be there, by the way. I was mad as hell when I got orders to Okinawa, Japan.
I've never been.
Well, really?
Yeah, no, man.
Oh, you missed out, brother. We got to go on vacation one day. It's beautiful.
All right, let's book that.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's funny because like when we were young Marines, none of us probably enlist, and you think you're going to go see so many different things in so many different countries and understand, and be exposed to different cultures.
Sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always appreciated about
it. Yeah. And I tell you, my first deployment, it wasn't to a foreign country. I got to Okinawa. Yeah. 2 weeks later, a Marine got in trouble. So they pulled him off the deployment. They said, Marquez, pack your crap. The next morning, I was on a plane to Hawaii, got on an MPF ship, which is a civilian ship filled with military equipment. And then we floated to Washington State and did an offload exercise for a couple weeks. And then Iraq invaded Kuwait. And so we packed up and we flew back home to Japan. I ended up not deploying there because I was in Japan, but man, what a first expeditionary introduction to the Marine Corps as a PFC, 18 years old.
Yeah, it's a hell of a burden to bear right
Yeah.
there. So, I mean, you served over 31 years in the Marines, and one of the things that we'd like to talk about here in the studio is, struggles, because that's kind of one of my target audiences is guys out there that are kind of struggling. So, I know that in 31 plus years that you probably had a lot of turbulence in there. So, what was kind of like the one struggle that you would say that was really, really weighed heavy on you, and how'd you get through it?
Yeah, it actually ties into my immigration journey, believe it or not.
Yeah.
So I couldn't apply for citizenship while I was in Okinawa, Japan. It was highly frowned upon. I couldn't fly to Hawaii on a $200 paycheck, right? Because that's how much I was making back then.
Yeah.
So I had to wait for my entire first enlistment to when I got to Camp Pendleton, California. By then, I was already married to my non-citizen Japanese wife, and she came with me on what's called a humanitarian parole. So we applied for citizenship. It took me another 3 years of deployments, missed appointments, rescheduling, just to get my citizenship. Finally, after that, the war in Iraq kicks off in 2003. I'm a gunnery sergeant. I'm on ship training for deployment, getting ready to go. Didn't know we were going to Iraq. And my wife gets a letter. She doesn't understand it. Misses an appointment for her green card. And then I go on ship. We're getting ready to go to combat. And she gets a notice that she's going to get deported.
Oh, no.
It was terrible, man. It just crushed my soul. I was traumatized. I didn't know what to do. I'm on ship. And back then, there was no iPhones. There was no communication other than maybe a satellite phone that was very difficult.
You had that 10-second delay on the landline.
That's right.
That?
That's right.
Goodness.
Hello, wife. This is me. Over.
Yep.
And so I was able to get to a method of communication where I got a hold of my brother in California. He's a city administrator, still doing that in my hometown. And he engaged my members of Congress, and Congress got involved. My congressman, Linda Sanchez, and she stopped the procedure and the proceedings. And my brother, on my behalf, got all of her paperwork squared away and got her appointments, and we eventually got her green card. And to think, I was really happy. I was at peace even though I was going to war.
Yeah.
So it was okay for me to go to war as long as my wife was okay.
Sure.
And I think about that today, and it was worth it. But man, the ways that us in the military think, to think that it's okay to go to war as long as the family's okay, that actually happens all the time with thousands and hundreds of thousands of service members.
Yeah.
And so that was really difficult for me. It made me ramp up my dedication to the military and to just get to a higher position where I could influence cases like the one I had been helped with.
That's a great story. Hey, and also pleased to report, still married to the same woman.
Still married to the same woman. 29 years.
29 years, man. God bless you.
Totally
guys.
worth it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I
That's
appreciate
incredible,
that.
man. Appreciate that.